Coming up on Techzilla, stop stretching HD and end the era of the Oompa Loompa. Master the Windows dual boot, lossless transcoding, and tools to stretch your HD video. Huh? So find some graham crackers, melt that chocolate, and marshmallows, because Techzilla starts now. This episode of Techzilla is made possible by Squarespace, Gamefly, and GoDaddy.com. I'm Patrick Norton.
Hey, and I'm Robert Heron.
Welcome to Techzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you already got.
If you've got a question about high-definition video editing, building a NAS or a RAID setup, chipping your car, or the best curry in a hurry south of Market, we've got your answer.
And don't forget the naan. Hey, and you know what? If we don't, we'll track down somebody who does. Veronica, not to my left, my buddy Robert Heron joining us today. Veronica's somewhere in the sky today working her way back from Nippon, a bag full of bright, shiny gadgets from Akihabara in her carry-on bag.
Nice.
No, you're going to help me keep the show from getting boring.
I will do that to the best of my ability, indeed. But I do want to say that I have a very strong sense of deja vu about this arrangement. I don't know.
4 letters, 1 period, but kind of a mirror image.
Yes.
It's like we're on the wrong side of the table.
I know.
Well, part of the reason you're here, though, is we have a new show coming up.
We do. Yes. I think it's going to be all HD related, with news on the latest titles, reviews and in-depth explainers about HD TV and home theater gear.
Basically, we're looking to give you the ultimate in home theater, from the content to the surround sound to the speakers and maybe even the chairs. And it doesn't matter whether your budget's up here or down here, where ours usually is. So check it out. We hope you will check it out and watch as Mr. Heron and I get our HD geek on. All
right. Time to fire up our first question. Sure. And that question comes to us from Mr. Todd. And Todd has a question about video playback software for PCs. He's basically doing the 4:3 video in a 16:9 display. And he writes, "Greetings from Calgary." The real northern Great Plains. I want to find a freeware DVD video player that can take a 4:3 formatted video and play it back in the 16:9 format, but with not the usual linear stretch mode. He wants something fancy. He wants to keep the middle of the screen just as it is with the normal looking image and have the edges progressively stretched to fill the entire 16:9 frame. I find this to be much more enjoyable than watching the video in a 4:3 box in the middle of my monitor on a widescreen monitor. Well, in the middle of the screen on a widescreen monitor. Sure. Now, Power DVD 7, 8, 9, and probably future versions have this feature, but I'm able to find any freeware players that do this. I am trying to use as much freeware on my XP machine as possible and don't want to have to fork over my hard-earned cash to come by the moolah for something that can be done for free. Best regards, Todd.
Oh man, well this is our Oompa Loompa reference and our stretching software reference from the opening there. I despise, probably not nearly as much as you do, but screen stretching, right? Because
I call it the History Channel effect.
The History Channel effect, because normally, right,
everything is stretched on that channel.
Your 4:3s in the center, and you have the pillars on either side. A lot of people, Todd, obviously you're one of them, do not want to waste the extra real estate. And the kind of progressive stretching you're describing is a little less offensive than the traditional stretch, which creates the wide Oompa Loompa people as they turn. They just suck 4:3 out to the edges and then chop the top and bottom off.
It's like taking a piece of silly putty with the image on it and just going, just like that. But that's offensive, and I understand why you want a non-linear stretch. Now, I've seen TVs that do this. They usually call it something like panorama mode, where
smart stretch.
Yeah, but I've also seen errors too, where if you have the wrong kind of video or certain kinds of video on a display like that, where you will see that additional stretching happening on the edges of the screen. It's almost like a funhouse mirror effect, and that could be offensive too. But
a race car coming across the screen can look really funny, because it'll be like stretched and then normal and then stretched on the other side.
It's like getting near a black hole or something. That's crazy. But as far as playback software on the cheap, I haven't seen any. I've checked VLC, and people have made the request. Video LAN Client is a terrific freeware player that supports a stretch mode as well as a zoom mode. I'm almost sure. I'm far more partial to a zoom mode that just takes that 4:3 frame, just zooms it out until it fills the whole frame. You will lose the top and the bottom portion of the picture a little bit, but it retains the proper aspect rate, the original aspect ratio of the video.
There's no Oompa Loompa effect.
No. And I wouldn't be surprised if they will work on a nonlinear stretch function for maybe version 1.0 of the VLC LAN, or the Video LAN client. So, but
It's worth looking for, but if anybody out there knows of one that we haven't found, because I don't think GoHome does, VLC definitely doesn't, none of the others we've taken a look at, do us a favor, email us, techzilla@revision3.com, and put video stretching in the subject line. Still to come, how to swap a new OS on your dual boot system without destroying everything. But while we got your attention, let's take a moment to thank one of the sponsors that helps us bring this show to you. They are called Squarespace, and here to tell you more about this amazing online tool for making web pages is our former TechZilla intern, Annie.
Hi TechZilla viewers, I'm Annie Gauss and I'm here to talk about Squarespace. Squarespace is so easy to use that even someone like me, with no web design experience whatsoever, can build a beautiful, professional looking website literally in just minutes. But it's also versatile. Its intuitive format and features let you be as simple or as sophisticated as you want in the way you organize your content, no matter what it is that your website calls for. Either way, you'll end up with a site that looks like you paid someone thousands of dollars to do it for you. So what are you waiting for? A deal? Okay then, just check out using the code TECHZ, that's T-E-K-Z. That gives you 10% off the entire lifetime of your order. 10%, you cannot beat that. So take it from me, Annie, if you want to put up a professional web page without the hassles, check out squarespace.com.
Welcome to this week's freebie download pick, a free program we find useful, fun, or incredibly interesting. This week, F.Lux. Unless you work on your PC in a windowless room, chances are you constantly tweak your monitor brightness and temperature settings as the light outside changes from daylight to twilight to darkness. Maybe it's just our video editors, but a screen that's perfect for the noon sun seems way too bright and way too blue after the sun sets. Enter F.Lux. This tool adjusts the color temperature of your display to match the time of day. You get warm indoor lighting matched color at night and a bright blue hue to complement daylight. Just tell F.Lux what kind of lighting you want for day and night, set the transition time, and where you live. F.Lux does the rest automatically. If you're tired of hassling with your monitor to get the best picture no matter what time of day, you should check out F.Lux.
With Windows 7 released just around the proverbial corner, we've been getting quite a few questions like this one from Harrison. He writes, I currently dual boot Vista and Windows 7 RC. I have pre-ordered the final version of Windows 7, and I want to get rid of the RC once I install it and possibly put Ubuntu on the other partition that Windows 7 RC is on. How do you properly uninstall or remove an OS in a dual boot or multi-boot configuration? Thank you, Harrison.
Well, more often than not, you can just wipe the old copy of Windows out by installing basically just run a full install of the new operating system right over it. In fact, I did just that this morning about 4 hours ago.
You destroyed a partition?
I my old Windows 7 beta. It was dead, restarting every 2 hours, and I just wiped it out with a fresh install of Windows 7 release candidate. I mean, if you want to change the boot order, though, skip the various command line methods that are out there and download NeoSmart's Easy BCD. It's a great free tool for Windows users. It lets you change your boot order, even gives you tools to boot to Linux, Macs, OS X, or BSD from within the Windows bootloader. I especially like NeoGrub for Linux boots inside of there. If you're feeling more thorough, if you don't, I don't want my operating system to format the old partition, download a copy of the Gparted Live CD or the easiest partition manager. Wipe the old OS partitions before you install the new OS, and you can resize things because they're non-destructive too. Now, by the way, when you install Ubuntu, because basically you want to install your Windows operating systems, then your non-Windows operating systems, when you install Ubuntu and you install it last, in case I wasn't clear before, the Grub bootloader is going to take over for Win 7's bootloader. It's an awesome bootloader. If you don't like it though, you can boot into Windows, launch EasyBCD, and reinstall the Windows bootloader instead and have it allow you to go to Ubuntu instead of Windows 7.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, have you ever specifically formatted before you install a new operating system?
I always do. Well, the debate comes down to
a slacker.
How old is that hard drive, and do you want to do that full format,
right,
or do you want to do the quick format that just basically erases the partition table information, instead of just writing over every bit of the drive that can take weeks on end to finish?
You should, by the way, have the option for that Vista partition to update Windows 7 and save all of your programs and settings and stuff. I would skip that, save all of your settings out, save all of your data out, export your bookmarks and stuff, and just wipe it and start with a fresh install.
Have you ever just accidentally deleted the partition and you really needed that back? Have you guys covered that yet on TechZilla? You should, because I did that once, and wow, I ended up buying a program for $50 that made it super easy, but there's probably a cheaper way to do it.
It's actually, a lot of those paid programs are much nicer than a lot of the free ways of doing it. All your data's still there.
The free one was using some form of DOS that was taking a month, and I just couldn't fit. I was like, no, this ain't gonna happen. I need to get this done in like a couple hours tops.
That's a good reason.
So, yeah, anyway. Coming up next, renting EVDO for work or pleasure. But first,
let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, GameFly, people. GameFly is the largest online video game rental service and offers you a choice of over 6,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. With plans starting at $15.95 a month, GameFly members can rent 1 to 4 games at a time and keep them for as long as you like. It's a lot cheaper than buying them and getting bored. No late fees, no due dates, and shipping is always free. Once you're done playing a game, send it back and GameFly will send you the next available title on your list. If you really like the game you're playing, simply click Keep It on the GameFly website and the game is yours at a discounted price. GameFly even sends you the case and the manuals free of charge. Now, times are tough. Chances are you want a discount. Techzilla fans can score a 2-week free trial. Just go to gamefly.com/Techzilla. Some restrictions do apply. See the site for details. And do us a favor here at Techzilla. Keep us rolling out to you by supporting our sponsors. Check out those free trials.
looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, TagDef. Have you ever been scanning your Twitter feed and come across some hashtag you were unfamiliar with? You know, some pound sign with some indecipherable alphanumeric combination. Well, with TagDef, you'll never be left in the dark again. Located at tagdef.com, it's a simple website that relies on user submission to archive all the different hashtags found across the Twitterverse. If your favorite hashtag hasn't been defined, you can simply submit your own explanation, including its origin, uses, and anything else that might help the average layman understand the meaning behind the hashtagged entry. You can vote up or down existing definitions to help ensure the accuracy of the entries. So if you're somewhat bewildered at what that latest trending hashtag topic is referring to, just head over to tagdef.com.
Hey, our next question comes from Khalid. He writes in, I'm going on a trip to New York with my family for a couple of weeks. Don't want to use the hotel's wireless internet. It'll cost me a fortune. What options do I have? Is 3G a good option here or WiMAX? Are there any better, cheaper, or more bandwidth-friendly options out there? Note that I'm visiting. I don't want to deal with a yearly contract. Thanks, Khalid in Riyadh in beautiful Saudi Arabia.
Well, you could always take a break from the internet while you're vacationing. I understand, though. I mean, everybody loves the idea of 3 megabit per second WiMAX downloads anywhere they can take their notebook.
It just sounds so good.
Oh, I had one of those Verizon cards. I just go, bloop, put it in, and I'm surfing the web as soon as I get in the cab.
That's not WiMAX, though.
No,
That's
it's not.
EVDO.
Is it? Thank you for the correction.
Yeah, the reality, WiMAX, really for fixed locations at this point, because we get a lot of like, oh, well, can I get mobile WiMAX in my car yet? No, you can't actually. Right now, WiMAX fixed locations. Think of it as a substitute for phone lines or the cable network for the last mile from your ISP. And while there are a dozen or so players in the WiMAX field, most of them are local or business only, or haven't really built anything out except for Clearwire, which is in over 50 cities and slowly expanding through the United States. In fact, they seem to be working from like the sort of Modesto area towards San Francisco, for example.
Cool.
Not New York, they're not in LA, they are in Seattle, they're in a bunch of places in Texas. Check out the map to get an idea of where they have service. Not going to help you out, Khalid. However,
you can rent an EVDO modem, like a company called Rovair. They have pricing that starts around $9.60 a day, plus a $24 shipping fee, and that price drops as you rent the modem for longer periods of time. The only problem is that you'll need a US credit card to make the reservation, and they put a hold on the credit card for the estimated amount plus $75. It's a lot like renting a car.
Almost exactly like renting a car. Frankly, if you're in New York, chances are you can find a coffee shop with free or cheap Wi-Fi within walking distance, or a McDonald's. Almost every McDonald's has Wi-Fi now. Or check out the NewYorkCityWireless.com hotspot status map, or search around on the internet to find some. If you're outside of New York City, and maybe you're in Rochester, maybe you're in Huntington Station, or Huntington, or just chances are there are so many places to get free Wi-Fi. Why don't you just plan on sort of sequestering yourself to a couple of hours, buy a weekly pass for a coffee shop you like, or search out free Wi-Fi, and just eat a lot of fries while you're here.
That's good. Take a break. Disconnect, unplug, but I understand.
If you're here to see family, talk to your family. Facebook will be there when you get back home.
Well, Now the airplanes are sounding better and better all of a sudden. Anyway,
I can get Wi-Fi on freaking airplanes now.
Oh. Speaking of New York, Dave in Albany, New York, sent us this question. I recently got a new work van without a cassette deck, with no deck or auxiliary in. My only option left was an FM transmitter. I picked one up, but it has too much static on any frequency. Not wanting to waste another $40, can you recommend me one with a headphone input that won't make it sound like I'm pumping audio of frying bacon through the speakers? I understand. Poor Dave in New York, Albany, New York.
I hate FM transmitters. They mostly suck. I am super critical about them, but even at their best, they tend to sound worse than a local FM station. And if you travel around a lot, you'll find the radio frequencies that are empty in town A are getting stomped by a transmitter with music you hate in town B. It's really frustrating.
Totally. Although, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, they are the handiest things in the world.
You'd think that, but I've driven across Nevada, and like every time I went over like one little set of 2,000-foot high hills into another valley, there were another set of radio stations. So I had to actually change, in crossing Nevada once, I had to change my FM transmitter frequency like 11 times. My point for bringing that up is that yeah, I feel your pain, and positioning though can make a huge difference depending on where and what type of antenna your car or truck or van or whatever it is you're driving. But you know, try positioning it in different places. Try putting as much of it up on the dashboard as possible, getting a little 12-volt extension cable from the truck stop to put the whole thing up there, turning it 90 degrees, clipping it to the visor. It's all about getting the incredibly weak signal from the onboard FM transmitter a clear shot to the antenna on your vehicle. It can be really problematic on station wagons and some cars that have like FM transmitters that are in like the sort of the little stripe on the rear window somewhere or something like that.
Gotcha.
Those can be really problematic. If you can find one, I'd buy and install an FM modulator. It plugs in between your vehicle's radio antenna and the radio, and it just whomps the head unit with signal from your device. They're harder to find new these days. They're basically kind of trailing out because most head units have an auxiliary input now, but they were using just about every old school aftermarket CD changer in the trunk type install. So sometimes you can get lucky and find one at a garage sale or something. And you could always ask your boss if you can install a head unit with an auxiliary input. If you are the boss, I would just do it, because you're going to spend a lot of time in the van and you'll be a lot happier. I just you know,
you are not a fan of FM transmitters.
Well, there's people have like cracked them open and figured out in some cases there's like a little wire, and they drag the wire out of the case, and they try building little like tinfoil hat antennas to sort of direct the signal. It's just
most of those transmitters nowadays offering more frequencies? I've had a couple that had like 4, and you were really limited that way.
And most of them, something you should actually, if you are buying an FM transmitter, and a lot of people have great results with these. None of them just happen to be me. When you're shopping, be very careful, because in some cases, yeah, you only have 3 options or 3 pre-programmed options, or their 3 picked options that are like 88 point.
The preset ones were hard to deal with, but we had one that let us dial in anything. And granted, this was a party environment, so absolute audio quality wasn't paramount. It was just a matter of getting it from point A to point B and having it blast really loud while serving frosty cool beverages and things like that. So,
well, it
worked well.
Your mileage is going to vary. Check the forums, as there's so many of these, and the models are changing so fast. It's just hard to keep on top of them. I just trying to avoid them like the plague. But yeah, definitely if you are buying one, make sure it has a sort of unlimited selection of inputs, so you aren't stuck with, you know, the local public radio channel.
Here's to the popularity of the auxiliary input, or hopefully even USB ports or something standard.
I'll take an auxiliary input.
There you go.
I've ran into rental cars with those recently, which just
very,
makes
very
me
nice.
happy.
Yeah.
Viewer questions, big stack of them coming up for you, but first, GoDaddy.com. If you want to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com has what you need. .com names for as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much more. Website visitors, prospects, and customers are wary of websites and online businesses that aren't what they claim to be, and worried that their personal and financial information might fall into the wrong hands. Turn your visitors' concerns into a competitive advantage with the ironclad protection of a GoDaddy.com secure certificate. Entering code TECH4 when you check out, you'll score an additional 15% off any order of $75 or more. Some restrictions do apply. See the site for details, and do us a favor here at TechZilla. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com and use one of the TEK codes when you do. Mr. Heron is rather familiar with cable cards, which is good because we've got a question regarding one. Ready for a cable card question?
I am. Shoot away.
Ben writes in, are there any TV tuner cards with cable card slots available for use with Windows Media Center? Oh, Ben.
The answer, short answer is yes, if you can find it. I need to go check the AMD ATI. They have a product called the Digital Cable Tuner, the DCT. That is actually an external or an internal tuner device that gives you the slot you need to plug a cable card into. A cable card looks just like the old school PCM, CIA, or PC card slot cards.
Well, it's fair to say that, so cable cards are designed to allow you to plug the cable line from your local cable supplier into the back of your Windows Media Center PC or some other insert name of your favorite PC-based DVR.
Totally. ...
Totally. They're just impossible to find.
They're difficult. I mean, well, for one, the only way originally to get a hold of even a computer that would do that for you, a Windows-based system right now, was to purchase one from a certified OEM builder. They had to be certified by Cable Labs, the cable card people, as well as a Microsoft certified builder as well. So there are a group of companies that still do that. HP is one of them, along with some third-party manufacturers. Yeah, you're buying a custom system from these people with the appropriate slot. Now, the cable card itself is really just the tuner decoder part that allows you to view premium content. The pay channels like HBO, Showtime, and the others that
probably all the stuff
you don't get for free, like over-the-air clear or what they call clear QAM or QAM. Those are the unencrypted cable channels. That you can use a regular tuner card for.
Are there
It's just the premium stuff that you need cable cards.
Well, okay. Well, this is probably a good place to point out that you're going to have to get the physical cable card itself from your local cable company.
Right. That you do.
Yeah, and it may be easier for you to start with like level 3 tech support than it will be for you to start with a sales office in a lot of cases.
They're generally cheap too. I mean, the whole reason I personally switched over to cable cards is one, satellite setup wasn't practical for my situation. I had to stick with cable, but I didn't want to pay the cable company for their DVR, which in my opinion is a big POS. So
piece of stuff.
Yeah, piece of stuff. So I ended up buying a TiVo Series 3, and that's no longer made. They make other products now, but it has 2 cable card slots in the back. Got 2 small cable cards. The tech came over, set it up for me, but on the PC side of things,
plug the cable cards in.
Yeah. Oh, he has to do the callback, and it pings the card, and boom, then it starts working and linked to your account. And
could you transfer the cable cards from your TiVo to a Media Center PC?
I would think that wouldn't work. I think you have to have them at least, or you would have to call in and say, hey, I'm moving this from one device to the next, because I'm pretty sure it gets paired with the device you end up plugging it into. And in that case, on the PC side of things, the big name is AMD ATI. They have a device called the Digital Cable Tuner. Ooh, fancy name. And it's either an external USB box or it's an internal device that goes into a PCI slot, but it plugs into the PCI slot, but there's no connection made. It's literally just a holder, and it internally connects via USB to the motherboard.
Right.
And the other big challenge, though, was that the other part of the game was that you needed a motherboard, a specific motherboard that was certified by the Cable Labs folks, and it had a special BIOS built into it. The big thing that's happened this year was that somebody, who knows where this piece of software came from, but now it's floating around out there, but you can basically use a bootloader that you can place in your Windows system, and it will point, instead of to the BIOS to look at that special tag, it will look anywhere, or wherever you need it to. So you can basically use that with any motherboard. You don't need to have a specific motherboard anymore. So that was the big hurdle. The other is just getting a hold of that ATI AMD piece of hardware. So once you have those 2 things and you go through the setup routine within, and of course you'll need arguably a recent PC system, something kind of beefy, running either Vista Premium or Windows 7, and you're set. And then you use Media Center to actually do the setup and configuration.
So it sounds like, 2 quick follow-ups to this. Sounds like you see if you can get a cable card from your local cable company.
They all should offer them.
They all should offer
by
them.
law. Or FCC, they're the law of the land,
so the FCC says they
might not want to give you one, but they have to be able to provide them. So.
That's news. That's good news. Okay, so then you do that. You secure the hardware. You may or may not have to download the hack. We'll see if we can.
There's you know what? I can actually provide a link for a tool that will tell you if you have the right motherboard or not, and then another link that if the file still exists out there somewhere.
That'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
And then you basically get all this installed and hopefully not have to buy a pre-configured system.
Oh, this is the whole point, to avoid that. If you buy a pre-configured, it better work. You call up the cable guy, have him come out with a couple of brand new cards, put them in, or however many. That's the thing too. as far as I know right now, the current hardware, there's two different kinds of cable cards currently out there. One supports a single stream, a single channel tuner per se, and the other is called multi-stream. So you can do multiple speeds instead of having multiple. I'm using 2 cable cards right now because I have an older cable card device that only supports the older standard cards. The newer cards work in older devices. They're backward compatible, but you still only end up basically turning it into a single stream device. So if you want to record more than one show at a time, premium channels, you're going to need at least 2 cards or what they call the MS card, the multi-stream card.
Now you mentioned before QAM or QAM,
the unencrypted cable.
Will any digital cable or any digital tuner actually receive the basic cable channels?
Yes, they all do.
Really?
As far as I know. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't support. Your over-the-air tuners for your personal computers also typically support the clear QAM.
Got it.
So you should be golden there. If you just want your basic cable, you know, you don't need a fancy cable card tuner for that. You can always just use a regular tuner card.
But if you want to be catching that true blood, you'll need a cable card.
But the setup, though, too, you want to. Yeah, exactly. Or Discovery, or Dish. National Geographic Channel, or any of the other. I'm always thinking HD. So what are the Speed and ESPN and anyway,
all your local channels.
It can be done. It's not easy. There's no support for doing it yourself.
Right.
Microsoft could pull the plug on the whole thing with a Windows update at any time, but they haven't. The Green Button, is it thegreenbutton.com? That's the Windows Media Center forum site, super site. Yeah. There's a lot of good information there too. So if that'd be one of the first stops I would make if you're really interested in trying this yourself. There have been some great threads there that I've gone through. And I'm tempted to do it, but I look across the room and I got my TiVo sitting there in the living room already, so blah, blah, blah.
Point taken. All right, our next email is a V-mail. It comes from Bob in Belgium. Fire it up, Bob.
Hi Patrick and Veronica, I am in search for a free tool that can convert audio files on Windows XP. I have a bunch of FLAC files lying around here and I want to play them in iTunes or on my iPod.
All right, Bob is looking for something to convert his audio files so he can play his FLAC files in iTunes and on his iPod. DV Power Amp Music Converter.
Awesome.
Just download it. Download it, go to their amazing Codec Center, and just be done with it. If you've never experienced it, it's a Windows program. If you've never experienced it, it will bring you joy and happiness, and it is the music conversion tool of power users, fools, madmen, and experts. Just dbpoweramp.com, download the music converter, you're done.
I got the pack that gives you the CD ripper, and it gives you access to the databases for pulling down artwork and all the information to do the tags, just so. And I did that to rip hundreds of CDs, all my music, and it was just awesome. And then did it all to FLAC, and I was in a similar situation. I needed basically for my phone, I just did it all to AAC, and then for some of my iTunes friends, I gave them all Apple lossless, and it was easy just to switch to whatever you want.
It's just, you can do batch conversions, it's awesome, 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 and it's free, free, free.
Finally, we've got a few recommendations and suggestions from the viewers about some alternatives to App Zapper you recommended to John last week. Eric in Sweden writes, I would recommend App Cleaner instead of App Zapper. It's a free tool. I have both, but I prefer App Cleaner. Also, Mike and Chris wrote in to suggest App Trap as an alternative to App Zap for uninstalling applications in OS X.
Hey, thanks everybody. Great recommendations. I definitely have to check those out because they are all news to me. I've just been using App Zapper for so long. Oh, I also need to make a small correction from last episode where we accidentally showed a Palm Centro instead of a Palm Pre during our interview with Sasha Sagan. No, we suck. I'm sorry. Ow. If you haven't heard of it, JV, he is a DJ, he's a shock jock. This is a very different program for Revision 3, JV's World. Dude's got opinions about everything, and he's basically going to spout them out at the top of his lungs. And if you're into the whole shock jock thing, I know a lot of you are big Howard Stern fans, you might want to check out JV's weekly rant video on Revision 3. You might despise him, you might love him, but you can see what he has to say every other Monday at revision3.com/JV's World. For all of you watching, we love your questions, so email us, techzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos, you ask us, we'll get those answers to you, but we need those emails, so don't be shy. Send them into techzilla@revision3.com.
Even better, send us a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Be sure to keep it to 15 seconds or less. Upload it to YouTube and send us the link in an email with video question in the subject line. And as always, you can visit our forums at revision3.com/forum. Share your thoughts, ideas, or comments with other fans of the show.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Heron.
Until next time, you've been watching Techzilla.
Dude, thanks for coming on. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Always.
Off to Vegas in guns!
There's learning to be had. Yeah.
My fists are not the hammers.
Jokes are easy.
The hammer is my. Sorry, I'm now like laughing my ass off at Dr. Horrible playing in my head.
Looks like it's another time. Looks like it's time for another. Yeah, let me get that right. A website that we just can't. Oh, God damn it. So if you're somewhat bewildered at that, at what?
It's all I can think of during tag time. Some indecipherable combination of letters and keys. Oh my God, the Pope is into goat porn? That's all that was running through my head.
I saw something today. I really did not need the image in my head. I was just like, wow, turn that off.
Did it involve death, mayhem? Or
No.
ghosts?
I really can't look at that stuff. Somebody immediately posted a picture of somebody with a pressure washer on a rooftop, just going, "Oh, clean me." I think my glasses are fogging up. Sorry.
Thinking about whatever horrible image you saw this morning.
It's stuck. Yep, it is.
Power washer didn't work.
No.
DEFCON!
DEFCON! And automatic weapons and in the subject line. And as always, ah, damn it, man. Can I not read today? Is that what's going on? Oh. I get all caught up reading, and then I just ignore life. You know, if you use lasers and just blind me, that'd probably get the point across.